It's time to take your seat in the front row with Mike Vaccaro. Here's your host, Mike Vaccaro.
Hey, thank you, Chuck, and welcome everybody. Episode number 15 is upon us in the front row with Mike Vaccaro. I am your host, Mike Vaccaro. Behind the scenes, as always, doing a great job. It's J.R. Quitman, our creator, producer, and director. And when he created this show, I don't know if he thought or if I thought we were going to have a Hall of Famer on the show, but that's what we have today. Artis Gilmore, a Naismith Basketball Hall of Famer, played in the ABA, played in the NBA, doing some broadcasting now as well. The A-Train, he is our guest in episode number 15, a Hall of Famer. It's Artis Gilmore. Again, Artis, we greatly appreciate you joining us here today. I know you're a busy man. You work on the broadcast for your alma mater, Jacksonville University. So take a little time off that schedule to join us here and talk about your career, which what a career you have had and continue to have. And I want to go back to the very beginning. You know, growing up in Chipley, Florida for you, you were born in 1949. You're one of 10 kids. And I guess height was always a part of your life. You were 6'5" at age 15. What was it like growing up in Florida at that time? And did you utilize that height? Were you playing basketball right away as a young child?
No, Michael, actually not, because as you mentioned, the 10 kids in the family, there was a lack of support, family support, being able to accommodate all of those kids. And so, no, basketball was not a priority. I was starting to develop and grow a little bit. But I use the term nutrition. We were liking nutrition and a number of things, and it was a time in this country where the pressure of relationships between whites and black was even more challenging. So basketball was not a priority until later. But it allowed me to move away. We had so many brothers and sisters in the family, and a chance to get away. So they put me on the team. I had an old pack of really different kind of shoes. They were called slip-ons, tennis shoes. And it had the rubber across the top, and they would, every time you move your feet, they just rip on the side. You put cardboard in there, but anyways, I was on the bench, and it was a really a tough learning experience. I remember every time they called my name, I was, oh my God, I hope they don't call me and they come out and play. I'm not ready for this, and I was just a big, long, lanky kid, and everybody looked at me, and because of my size and everything, they thought I was ready to play. But later, I started to develop really slowly, and I was able to get some shoes every year, growing from 12, after having that pair of shoes at 12 and 13 and 14 without shoes. And then later, actually having a pair of shoes that fit and everything, that's when about 15, I was really starting to gain interest and start to develop in the game of basketball. And I think about all of my colleagues and guys that ahead of me, they were developing very quickly because they had the support and things that was necessary for them in order for them to move forward. And I speak in terms of guys like Lou Alcindor and all the great Bob Lanier. They were living in cities, and my little small city did not provide those opportunities for me. So, but anyways, I was able to play catch up. I moved from Chipley to Cabo High School in Dothan, Alabama, my last year in high school, which was then again all black school. And I graduated from there. And for the first time, I went to junior college because I was not prepared academically to move to a major school. So after spending 2 years at Gardner-Webb, I was able to move forward. And my friend Ernie, he made the connection with Joe Williams at Jacksonville University, and he says, "Man, listen, I'm leaving Gardner-Webb, and hopefully you'll come with me." And this is a true story. And he said, "Well, Ernie, I'm all in, man." So he said, "Well, I'm going to reach out to Joe Williams and see if he have the interest to bring me and you and I to Jacksonville, because Ernie was recruited when he was at Fall River." So he wrote the letter to Joe Williams, and Joe said, "Well, we'll come up and take a look at you." But he came up and he really liked what he was viewing, liked what he saw. And so we both was able to transfer to Jacksonville. And my junior year, we had a tremendously successful year. We ended up going to the Final Four and losing to UCLA. And that was, in no question, a memorable experience. And afterwards, I was drafted by both leagues, and I decided to go to the ABA because we spoke about earlier. My family, and I thought about the funds that would support them, and so the monies that was offered to me was guaranteed monies, and in the event that I receive a very severe injury, that I would be able to continue to have those funds to support my family. And that was the reason everybody was still up in arms about me making that decision to deciding to go to the ABA instead of the NBA. In fact, I think they still hold that against me. But it's been a challenge and a great career in winning a championship in Louisville, Kentucky in 1975. And they played 1 year additional after that. And then they put the 4 teams in the dispersal draft. And then I was originally drafted by Chicago again. And so I went to Chicago, and I spent 6.5 years there. And then on to San Antonio. And from there, after an awful lot of years, I was selected to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, we're going to dive into a lot of these stories because, again, that's brief, but your life certainly is unique and a great story. It's a great story growing up, again, that you didn't have the shoes and you developed into the player that you were. What led you? You went to several different high schools. As you said, you ended up in Carver High School in Dothan, Alabama. What necessitated that move for you away from your family to go that far away? It was about 35 miles, I guess, from where you grew up.
Absolutely. And because of the issues between whites and black in the school, that was the really decision I made because of that. And dealing with the very intense environment. And that was, it was enough pressure on me with the family not being able to provide for me as far as clothes and a number of other things. And that certainly weighed on the decision to move to Carver High School in Dothan, Alabama.
Graduated in 1967. You were 6'10" at that time. And again, it sounds like recruiting was a lot different back then in the late 60s. So how did you end up and make your way to Gardner-Webb in North Carolina?
Well, actually, we played a holiday basketball game with a number of schools, Booker T. Washington out of Montgomery and a couple of schools out of different parts of the state in Georgia. I mean, big schools. And so we played 3 ball games that day and one day. And they had a number of recruits from all over the country, including Villanova with George Raveling and Eddie Holbrook was there. And because, once again, academically, I was not totally prepared to move to that next level. So um, I was encouraged and persuaded. And I certainly wanted that opportunity to move forward, and not after graduating from high school, returning to the environment that I grew up in. I know that was a challenge, and being able to find a way to move forward. And I was the first to graduate from college. And I made that decision. I had an opportunity to leave early and certainly signed with the Harlem Globetrotters and a couple of other teams where we're taking kind of underclassmen. But I wanted to graduate, set an example for my younger members of the family, and I was able to do that.
Again, you're one of 10 in the family. Where were you in the pecking order? Were you the oldest?
I was the second oldest. My oldest brother George, and then myself, and then down the line the rest of the brothers and sisters.
Well, certainly you got that degree, but outstanding career at Gardner-Webb as well. You eventually went to their Athletics Hall of Fame, but you led them to the junior college tournament back in '68 and '69, and it was a time for you. You averaged over 22 points, 16 rebounds. What was it like? Did you feel like you were finally coming into your own? As you said, you got the late start as compared to some of the other big guys at that time, but did you feel like Gardner-Webb really gave you a chance to come into your own as a basketball player?
Well, again, spending the time at Gardner-Webb was a transition period for me and learning because I remember growing up, the very tense environment and there were so many things that happened when I was a kid. So it was kind of a late experience, and I learned some that was able to absorb some things at Gardner-Webb, but everything really accelerated once I was able to transfer to Jacksonville University.
Tell me about Eddie Holbrook, your head coach at Gardner-Webb. Was he someone, again, that you looked to as a role model, and again helped you to get to Jacksonville after that as well?
Not really. Eddie Holbrook they were excited. Gardner-Webb was a 2-year program, but not recognizing that the intent was to move a change into a 4-year institution. And they certainly made every effort to encourage and persuade myself and all of the others to stay because they was going to have a 3rd year and then a 4th year. But of course, we were not aware of that when we first signed up with Gardner-Webb. But Eddie Holbrook he was a teacher, really tough teacher. And for me, it was kind of difficult because I had never experienced that kind of a tense relationship with the white man, and so I didn't know how to really accept it and how to digest it and incorporate that into a learning process in my life. But Eddie was very persuasive, and he and I was able to absorb portions of the game that I was not aware of, and then, of course, it really elevated to the next level once my departure from Gardner-Webb and moving forward to Jacksonville University.
Were you 7'2" at this point, going from Gardner-Webb to Jacksonville?
Probably not quite. I was moving slowly because, when I look back and after reaching the age of 18, that was during the time they were really taking young players, young individual personnel into the military, and they were sending them straight to Vietnam. And just after I reached 18, I remember stretching because I was really afraid. I had so many of my classmates had departed and gone to Vietnam, and no sooner that they arrived, they were sent back home. Of course, in a box, and so I was afraid after hearing so many of those tragic situations, and so I remember I went to the local board and I was stretching to make sure that I reached the 6'8" mark, because that was kind of the cutoff spot, and so. Yes, I was around 6'8" at that height when they made the decision, when it says, well, we're going to put you in a 4F category, which meant that that's permanent. But then that could possibly change, if there was an emergency that they could change it. But they was trying to think in terms of a more permanent category to group me and with others that was too tall to actually go in to enter the military.
That's crazy. That's an incredible story there, that your height certainly kept you away from that opportunity. And again, as you said, you went to Jacksonville University. You were persuaded to go there by your teammate. Were you getting offers to go elsewhere? I mean, again, the career you had at Gardner-Webb, your size, I've got to imagine you had some opportunities to go to a lot of different places.
Well, we did. We had a couple of. Ernie and I went out to visit Iowa, and there was a couple of other institutions, but we were kind of uncomfortable that knowing that Gardner-Webb was moving very quickly, trying to persuade us to maintain our relationship with the Gardner-Webb. So we visit just a couple of institutions. We did not. We actually had an opportunity to visit to Jacksonville, and so we were really excited about the fact that the personality and the mindset was so different with Joe Williams and Tom Wasden. And I think that was the persuasive and encouraging decision, helped us to make that decision to come to Jacksonville University.
Yeah, certainly one that you look back fondly, I'm sure, is you were there from 1969 and 1971. As you said, 1970, you went all the way to the championship game before coming up short to UCLA. Did you think going into that year you were going to have that type of season where you can more or less put Jacksonville on the map a little bit and get all the way to the championship game?
Well, after the opportunity to spend some time with Joe Williams, and this again, the early transition for me, being able to associate with white folks. It was quite a transition for me, knowing that how intense in the relationship, the things that happened back in my earlier years. And I'm not going to go through all the details, what happened during that time frame, but it was kind of a very tense moment. But Joe was able to help me to relax and become comfortable, and actually help me. It was a great step and assistance to help me develop and become a mature individual, because in some of that fear was able to leave behind. And so that transition to Jacksonville was huge for me, and that was the really magic moment to help me to really just excel and become a different, very talented athlete.
Yeah, it sounds like a transformative time for you as an athlete and maybe as an individual as well. Is that what you look at, your time in Jacksonville that have maybe prepared you for life beyond that, maybe not just on the court, but off it as well?
Absolutely. I mean, that was, and I love that word, transformative. And that's exactly what happened. Uh, I was able to move forward and develop mentally and learn so much about being able to um, accept and understand, not that the relationships and things had changed. I was thinking back in 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated that year, and there was so much tense and turmoil in the entire country. And after experiencing so much of that in my earlier years, um, that word transformative was very much a major a part of developing at Jacksonville University.
And again, on the floor, outstanding, getting all the way to that championship game. What do you remember about that championship game? As I said, you came up a little bit short. 80-69 was the final score. It was played at Cole Fieldhouse in College Park, Maryland. What do you remember about going up against UCLA at the time? It was Sidney Wicks who was leading them to the championship.
Well, we knew that was going to be a challenge, and after really working and getting off to a good start, I remember the tip ball. I tipped it to Rex Morgan. He was able to take it straight to the basket and score. And then we started to feel very comfortable. And at halftime, we thought the score was pretty close. And of course, they was able to go in, Coach Wooten and Coach Denny Crum, assistant coach Denny Crum, they were able to go in and make some adjustments, and we were not. We weren't ready for the experience, and as a result, they was able to come back to the floor in the second half and make some things happen and take advantage of us and end up winning the ball game.
You had an outstanding career at Jacksonville. I had to think that you were the focal point of a lot of opposing defenses. How was that like for you? How did you overcome that? Because again, you're 7'2", averaging a double-double, more than 24 points, more than 22 rebounds in your career at Jacksonville. What was it like to be the focal point of every team's defense?
Well, I really never really thought of it as being the individual that preparing defensively against. But there is one story in particular. Florida State was one of the best teams in there, coached by Hugh Durham, and I was told, and sometimes I've asked. Hugh Durham has spent a lot of time in Jacksonville and ended up coaching the Dolphins for a number of years, and so we develop a really good relationship. And I always joke with Hugh Durham. I said, I grew up in Chipley, Florida, which is, in a sense, about 80 miles west of Tallahassee. And at Florida A&M, none of those schools thought about extending me an invitation. So if there is any kind of an indication how far I was behind in the game of basketball. No interest, and of course, no way to recruit. I mean, you send out a letter by Pony Express and it might reach the destination. But the story was that in order to prepare the defense against me, that he would take a tennis racket and he would use that. Now, I that's what I was told, that he would use a tennis racket to hold the ball up. I mean, and that everybody had to shoot over this tennis racket. So if that was any kind of an indication of preparation for me defensively, the one place that I heard was this story from Florida State. But I'm sure there was other institutions made some decisions, but it was very difficult to defend against me blocking shots and assisting my team moving forward, especially in the defensive category. And of course, you mentioned I had double, and I made every effort to make sure that I wanted every rebound that came off the board. I was not going to even allow my teammates, so I was always above that, and then certainly I wasn't interested in really not interested in scoring, but I was able to score in double points, 20 points. So I was one of 4 or 5 players in the history of the game to be able to do that.
Well, you're number one, the highest rebounding average in Division I history at 22.7 rebounds a game. As you said, you wanted every rebound, and obviously you're 7'2", but what else goes into making and made you such a good rebounder?
Well, I remember when I was a kid, this is kind of strange, but the light poles that had those extended support that supported these beams, and they were probably way over 10 feet. And I would run at full speed, and they had little prickles on them, but I run and jump and catch, running at full speed and jump. And that was elevated, and I would hold on for a while. And after the momentum had kind of relaxed a little bit, I said, wow, that's a long drop back to the ground. But that was really helpful. I always was reaching for the sky and finding ways to elevate my jumping, and from jumping on the stage and up and down. So I was able to help with develop some things that allow me to elevate my skills and getting up off the floor.
Yeah, some different alternative training measures you used there growing up, and certainly it paid off. And as you said, 1976 drafted by or 71, drafted by the Kentucky Colonels in the ABA draft, also drafted by the Bulls in the NBA draft. You go with the Colonels, and as you said, the guaranteed money was there. 10 years, $2.5 million, which nowadays isn't a lot of money. But as you said, back then, that was a lot of money, and you could help out your family with that. Was that the driving force that led you to, a new league in the ABA?
Absolutely. I don't know. I think that would probably exaggerate it, 2-point-something million dollars. But I did. I received a considerable sum of dollars, and yes, absolutely. As I indicated before, growing up with the limited amount of things, so I was able to do a number of things, especially with a large family and kids, that allow me to help the family to be able to do some things that was really positive, and my younger brothers and sisters. It made a world of a difference.
And again, that first year, you had great success with the Colonels. You were the ABA Rookie of the Year and the MVP, and you beat out a guy from the Virginia Squires. His name was, I think, Julius Erving, right? Dr. J. You beat out Dr. J for not only the Rookie of the Year, but the MVP as well. What do you remember about that season, and how good of a season it was for you?
Oh, it was really a great season. We had probably the best record. We had a really, really good team, and I think that was probably one of the reasons that allowed us to will allow me to win that. I think we won like 64 games and lost 14 games for that entire season. So uh, that gave me the lead as far as winning those particular trophies.
What do you remember about the ABA? Again, it's an upstart league going up against the NBA. You're seeing that obviously in a lot of sports through the history of the sports landscape, a lot on the football side of things. But what made that league special? Because you look at it now, and obviously a lot of great players came from that league that were absorbed into the NBA, and it just seemed like a fun league and a fun time as well. Is that kind of what you remember about the ABA?
Well, it was a fun time, and I know because of the amount of monies that the owners had invested, it made it very difficult for them because there was no television contract, and so they really wanted to set up, make sure they had leverage enough that they could actually come to the NBA and negotiate in good faith as far as bringing the two leagues together. But because of the NBA having much more leverage, they were able to negotiate on their own terms. But um, I think one of the things that really hurt the ABA was not having a national television contract. And so, and that put them in a very difficult situation as far as pressure trying to maintain so that time would come when they would be able they was obviously able to compete with the NBA. And finally, when the merger came about, they brought about a number of the rules. They brought the 3-point shot rule in. They brought the slam dunk contest, and they brought practically everything in except the colorful basketball. But um, ABA was really an exciting league, and they were I think they was instrumental in changing the game and kind of in a sense making the game what it is today. Now you look at uh, the European players that came over, and they are the ones that kind of brought about stretching the league and stretching the game, moving it out on the perimeter farther. Guys like young Steph Curry and the things that he's able to do. And so the ABA certainly made its mark in professional basketball.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the basketball, the red, white, and blue basketball. Obviously, that sticks out when you talk about the ABA. And again, great career. You're also in the slam dunk contest back in 1976 in the ABA. What do you remember about that and that event? And, was that something that was a little ahead of its time as well?
Well, absolutely was ahead of his time because, as I think about it, we had I think Larry Keenan, George Gervin, had David Thompson, and Julius Erving, and I'm maybe leaving someone out. But actually, I was the very first person to go in that event. And of course, 7 feet. I guess I was kind of thrown in because I was one of the stars. But I asked, I had to ask, okay, where do I go from here? What do I, what do you want me to do here? And I made sure that I didn't miss a dunk, and everybody was anticipating David Thompson to probably win the event, but I think he did a 360 and he missed. And then you had Julius Erving that come in and brought about the little excitement by going the full length of the floor and running at full speed, and he was going to jump from the foul line, but I'm not so sure he made it all. I think his foot kind of led to this side, but he was able to elevate, and that was the crowd pleaser and allow him to win that slam dunk contest. And of course, he was the last one to go, and allow him to observe everything else had taken place. But nevertheless, Julius was an extraordinary talented individual.
Yeah, his dunk that you mentioned there, jumping from the free throw line, that's what Michael Jordan did later on in the NBA slam dunk contest to help him win it as well. So it was kind of a paying tribute to somebody ahead of him, the Dr. J, Julius Erving. And again, you had such great individual awards and individual career, but then you have the championship, 1974 to 1976, teamed up with Dan Issel with the Colonels, and you win the ABA championship. How much of a highlight is that championship in your career as you look back at it?
Well, it means that I won a championship. I all through high school and through I probably should have won a couple more, but that one championship means that after a lifetime in the game, I was able to bring home a championship and be an MVP. No matter whether you talk about the NBA championships, individual not winning, but there is so many guys have not won a championship, but walked away from the game. And I think about Oscar Robertson, his last year coming to Milwaukee and winning the championship with Lou Alcindor. And that was, and actually that was the last time he played. He never played another game afterwards, but he was able to get that championship, very elusive, for him. I remember my first game watching the Boston Celtics, going home with my friend, my teammate, who was from Fall River, Massachusetts, and we went to see a basketball game at the Garden, my first time ever, and watching Bill Russell and Oscar Robertson, whom was playing with the Cincinnati Royals at that time. But Oscar had some phenomenal, great years, double-double, triple-doubles, and in fact, they probably do not have a record of all of his accomplishments. But in the end, he was able to win that championship, and that kind of sums it up for most guys if you actually have that championship ring.
Yeah, it kind of completes your resume to get that championship. And again, you did in the NBA, in the ABA. You were the MVP that year in the playoffs as well. Did that make that even more special? You win a championship, and then you're the guy that's recognized as that special player for your team?
Absolutely, it does. It really does, because I had those elusive moments in the NBA, not having enough really support to really make that run for the NBA championship.
And again, on that team, you played alongside Dan Issel. What was that relationship like for you two guys? I mean, you mentioned, black and white and your relationships growing up and the struggles there. What was that like for you guys to play alongside each other and be a big part of the success of that team?
Yeah, I was thinking back, and we had a relationship, going all the way back. We beat Kentucky, University of Kentucky, in the NC2A en route to the championship. And then, of course, the people in Kentucky, they resented that. But after the draft, and they made the decision to bring me to Louisville, it become really special. Our relationship developed, and we were, and still is, we're like brothers. We have a great relationship.
And you played your games at Freedom Hall as well. A lot of fans know that from Louisville, Kentucky, and Louisville Cardinals playing there. What kind of facility was that like at the time, back in the mid and early 70s?
Oh, Freedom Hall was really, really good considering. A couple of times we had some incidents that happened, so we had to move our games downtown to a really little small place, and uh, but Freedom Hall was really, really a great place to play.
So eventually the ABA disbands. Several teams go to the NBA. Was it the Pacers, Nuggets, the Nets, and the Spurs? You mentioned the dispersal draft, and you go to Chicago. Were you sad to see the ABA go, or were you excited about this new venture and getting to play in the NBA now?
I think it was a combination because I thought perhaps, I'm really established. I've been in Louisville for 5 years, had a home, and I had a daughter, and another one was on the way. So that was a really a great environment, a place to play, and I was really thinking that we probably would have been one of the expansion teams, but that portion of it did not materialize, and certainly we were excited about it.
You go from winning a championship to the ABA. As you said, you struggled a little bit early on in your career as a team with the Bulls. Was that a tough transition time for you to go from such great success and then to see this thing take a while to build back up with the Bulls?
Well, I really can't pinpoint exactly because they had just changed coach. Ed Badger had come in, and they had actually Jerry Sloan as one of the assistants. Jerry was actually supposed to be my teammate, but because of um, some injury, an injury that he received he did not heal up very quickly. So he ended up being one of the assistant coaches. So I think that, and then trying to work with some of the veteran players, and in fact, they ended up making some changes. Bob Love was there, and they ended up moving Love and sending him to Portland. And so after making some changes, we were able to put it together and make some things happen. In fact, they had one of the great players of all time, Chet Walker, and Chet had just retired. And so it was just quite of a transition period. But finally, after a period of time, we were able to put it together.
Yeah, as you said, you did put it together there, and you spent 6 years there with the Bulls, and every move you made previously in your career was you doing it, whether it was high school, whether it was junior college to college, and then going to the ABA. But then you're eventually traded for the first time. What was that like to get traded away from the Bulls to the Spurs back in 1982?
Well, I mean, I was shocked and totally surprised. In fact, I found out the news. We had made a trip. My wife and I, we was returning from China, and I got the news in midway, and of course, en route back, returning home. And of course, my wife was expecting we was expecting another child. I think our fourth child, and she was huge and she was big, and we were trying to get home, and she was so uncomfortable. I said, we normally would have stopped and just dropped in a hotel for allow her to get some rest. But we wanted to get back and find out what was going on. But before I actually found that information out that I had been traded en route home. So It was not like anything that we had talked about, or somebody had informed me that, we were looking at negotiating, moving you to another location. So that part was a surprise, but once I, was able to return and get settled in San Antonio and meet my new teammate, George Gervin, and I was excited about, started to really get excited about the possibilities.
Was that a moment where you really realized that, okay, it's a sport, but it's a business as well? And, when you get traded, it's a business decision sometimes for these teams.
Well, I think I kind of understood that even during the time that I was with the Kentucky Colonels, start observing things that was taking place that certainly encouraged me to be able to understand that everything is a transaction.
As you mentioned, you were teamed with the Iceman, George Gervin. So you were with San Antonio 82 to 87. What was that pairing like? And how did he maybe make you better and vice versa?
Well, George was an experienced player, and the one thing that George, he really loved the game, and everything was fun for him. And he just laughed and smiled and practiced in the game. So he was serious when it came down to playing, but he also recognized that he was the leader on the team, and whatever the things that he needed to do to keep his teammates into it and comfortable. And George was very good with that.
From the Spurs, spent a little time again with the Bulls and also with the Celtics a little bit as well. So you talked about going to the Garden, watching Bill Russell play against Oscar Robertson. What was it like when you became a Celtic? Because again, you look at the NBA and the history even at that time, obviously what a franchise it was, winning championships, Bill Russell, one of the most decorated players in basketball. What was it like to be a Boston Celtic and don that jersey?
I tell you, it was really incredible and really, really incredible. I think, as I spoke to you earlier about my first time ever watching a basketball was in the Garden with the Cincinnati Royals, and then Bill Russell, watching those two guys compete. And I had never seen a professional basketball game before. And then after 1,000 years returning and actually finishing my career. But the real experience was watching the the uh, the Celtics organization, how they really engaged and got involved with their players and the organization administration and had that winning mentality. I mean, and I had never experienced anything like that with all the other teams. And they just put a club out there on the team. But whatever pieces that the Celtics need, they made efforts to put those together because it was about winning in their tradition. And after observing that, I said, "Oh my goodness, I wish I would have learned something like that earlier in the league." And it was really just a great experience and a way to, I started my career by watching a game with the Celtics, and I ended up finishing my career with them.
Yeah, I don't think you could draw it up much better than that to have that be the case, and that's incredible there. And you look at that time, and you mentioned some of the names, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bob Lanier. Obviously, it's a different time in basketball with when you look at the bigs and the centers. But were those a couple of the guys, and who else kind of drove you to be a better player? Guys you went up against, and guys that hey, tonight I'm going up against Kareem. I've got to bring my A game if I want to have a good game for my team.
Yeah, Bob Lanier, Bill Walton, and there was just a host of other guys. You know, Dave Cowens created different problems for me. Dan Issel, my former teammate, he created a situation for me. Going out on the perimeter, they shoot extremely well and able to put the ball on the floor and move to the basket. Yeah. So the different centers over the years, they created challenges for me. And speaking of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I mean, the most, and he was such a great offensive player. And one of the things that allowed me to have some success against him was forcing him to change his rhythm, because you catch the ball in rhythm, he's moving to the basket, and he had an opportunity to score. So if I could change that, I was having a little bit more success.
How hard was it to defend that sky hook that he had such great success for in his career, and at one point became the all-time leading scorer in the NBA?
Well, it was very, very difficult. And I said the one thing that helped me was to force him to change his rhythm when he catch the ball, not to allow him to have catch it in rhythm and take it to the basket. So.
That's some good stuff right there. Good video of you guys going at it back in the day when he was with the Lakers, you were with the Bulls. And, so as you said, you finished your career with the Celtics. What goes through an athlete's mind when, okay, this is the end of the line, retirement is upon me. What was that decision like? And was it a tough time for you to make that decision to step away from a game that you love and you grew up playing?
Yeah, it was always tough. I figured, I said, my body, I'm only about 37. I said, I got a couple more good years. And I felt like it, but obviously, my performance, a few steps slower, not quite as much lift in my legs, and certainly others can observe it, but you as an individual, you're always mentally, you're saying, man, I know I can do it for another year. You always believe that, I have one more year, I can give it up. But instead, I took that year, 1 year, and I went to Italy. I took it to Bologna, Italy, and had my family with me, and that was a great educational experience. And then finalizing that one last year that I thought I had, and played very well over in Italy. But it was time to move on.
Well, when you look at it, 17 years as a pro, 11 time as an all-star in the ABA, the NBA as well. Did you think, and were you waiting for that call to come from the Hall of Fame? It eventually did, but did you think that, okay, I've done enough, my resume is enough, I'm a surefire Hall of Famer?
I thought that. I thought about it and thought about it. And after the extended period of time, then I was quite a bit of uncertainty there. And then it finally happened. And I was just elated and proud to be selected as a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, you wrapped up your career, as you said, in Italy in 1989. You were elected in 2011. In your mind, or do you know what took it so long to get you in the Hall of Fame? Obviously, again, your resume proves that you're one of the best out there, the best to play the game. But why, in your mind, did it take so long for that induction to come?
I think because I've never really been a verbal person, and just getting it out there and talking about it, talking it up, and becoming visible on the media set. I think that has something to do with it, because I was always been kind of a really quiet individual and sitting back. And I said, well, the statistics speaks for themselves. It's not necessary for me to go out there and promote myself and do those things. But apparently that was absolutely necessary to do. But it finally came, and it allowed me to have my son-in-law, my daughter, my grandkids, and my youngest son to be there and be a part of it. So it could not have happened at a more special time.
Yeah, certainly timing maybe was the right time for you, as you said, to have
Yeah,
all your
yeah.
family there and be there. I know some of the duties you've had, post your playing career. You've worked back at your alma mater, Jacksonville University. You were a special assistant for the president. You currently work on the radio broadcast as well. Why go back there? I'm sure you had some opportunities maybe to do some other stuff, but why your love for Jacksonville University? Why does that continue now that you're involved with different things with the Dolphins?
You said it right. I mean, you spoke it absolutely because of the love and the connection. That's where it all started from. And I love that institution, even though I recognize that there is such a need in being a private program. We are trying to find some way of creating a really nice endowment and be able to provide for students of need and continue to grow and be the fantastic institution that it is as of now. Just continue to move that forward.
And you mentioned again Hugh Durham and his time at Florida State. Was he still there when you started broadcasting the games? And that relationship, it seems like, as you said, has developed a little bit after your playing career.
Actually, no, Mike. Hugh had moved on, but and actually I came in really, really late. So it really seemed late, but I've actually been on the broadcast for probably close to 15 years or so now. But I've enjoyed it, and with being a home team, it makes it very difficult to really open up and say, listen, well, such and such an individual, you're the home team guy, and you have to think of all the positive things to say. So it's little different from being just a public a broadcaster, and that makes it really, really special and so much more enjoyable.
Yeah, certainly. I can relate to that, being the broadcaster at UNCW and kind of slanting a little bit toward that side when you call a game. But again, you've been doing it, as you said. Is it difficult, frustrating at times when you call a game, you look at it, today's players through the lens of maybe when you played, because it's a different game. The players are different as well. What is that like when you look out on the floor and it's different than back in the days when you played?
Yes, Mike, I totally agree. It is so different. I said, mentally, I think about it. I said, you know, that should be done the same way for 30 years. That much of the game should not be changed. But obviously, there's a number of aspects of the game has changed, uh, and apparently that's part of the way it is, the transition of the game from earlier years to what it is now. But you're right, sitting on the sideline and you think about it, and you said you try to transform your thoughts into something in a description, whereas that shouldn't have happened that way, but you have to kind of put the little twist on it and change it up. But in reality, wow, if that individual would have actually gone through the basic fundamentals of the game the way I've kind of understood it in the years, he would have had a little bit more success in that defending that play or offensively, some things of that nature.
Yeah, certainly has evolved and it has changed for sure. As we said, the players have changed as well. I want to end on this. They call you the A Train. When did that nickname come about? Who gave you that nickname, the A Train?
Well, actually, in Chicago, it was back after we had started to play very, very well. And I think we were the first team to really turn the lights down and introduce the players. And it always takes a while for the lights to come back up because of those gas lanterns and get them back up. But because of the power, I mean, I was playing with an awful lot of power. And then so one of the announcers just came up and he introduced everybody. And then suddenly he just said, and here is the A train, Artis Gilmore. And then it just kind of certainly blend and stuck and become a part of the process and become me, and I love the attachment.
And you've got a book out pretty recently with, the A Train, a big part of that name as well. If people want to see more, hear more about you, obviously this is about an hour interview, but there's so much more to you. Where can they find that book if they want to get that and learn more about Artis Gilmore?
Yes, boy, thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, Amazon. You can go to Amazon or any place that you order your book, and here comes the A Train. I should have had a copy here to show, but thank you.
There we go.
Yeah,
JR's
okay,
on top of it for us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Putting that little plug in there. Yeah.
Yeah, so here comes the A Train, the story of basketball legend Artis Gilmore. Get that copy if, again, you want to hear more of the story here. Artis, how else can people follow you? If are you on social media at all? Do you have a website? How can they follow you? If and what you're doing now, and again, learn more about your career.
Well, I'm not really good at I'm working with my kid. My kid that he understands that, but. Social media. I'm Twitter. I have a Artis Gilmore website, and you can actually go there at the website and check me out. And I work a little bit on Twitter, so you can reach out to those areas and find some things. And I'm working on trying to develop my skills a little bit more so I can actually respond to all of my fans out there that really would love to connect with me. Thank you so much, Mike. And one little story I wanted to share about that book, and it was funny that Rick Barry and I was talking about that. That's Rick Barry in the book, on the cover of the book, and so. There was another picture that I said we probably should have put that picture on. It's me my rookie year blocking Rick Barry's shot at the fairgrounds in New York, and it is one fantastic picture. Me and the camera just kind of focusing down, and I'm up with my hand up above the backboard.
Is that it there?
No, that's
you. Okay.
But that's one of them. He likes that photograph as well. But there's another one. But that is probably one of the best photographs in the history of basketball there, that particular one.
Well, we love that. We love that. And again, you're on those Jacksonville University broadcasts, so people can certainly follow you and listen to you on that as well. And Artis, I can't thank you enough for spending some time with us. Just an incredible story that you have, and congratulations on a wonderful career. Finally getting that call to the Hall of Fame back in 2011. And I'm glad we're doing this interview sitting down, because the last time somebody took a picture of you and I standing up next to each other, and I didn't win that battle either. So I feel Rick Barry's pain, because you were towering over me still at 7'2". And again, it's been a pleasure having you as a guest with us here today in the front row.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, that's amazing. We just had a Hall of Famer in the front row, and I cannot thank him enough, Artis Gilmore, for joining us here today. What a thrill. Some great names, ABA, NBA, that we heard from the 2011 Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame inductee. Our special thanks, some of the video you saw was from Jacksonville University. 70s fan, and official Hoop Hall as well. Hey, if you enjoyed that as much as we did, watching and talking with Artis Gilmore, like it. Subscribe to our channel. There are so much more great guests out there that we are connecting with, and they're going to be with us in the front row at some point. So be sure to subscribe. Do not miss another guest coming up. But again, our thanks to Artis Gilmore spending some time with us here today. For our entire crew, I'm Mike Vaccaro. We thank you for joining us in the front row. Have a great day, everybody.